My mission is to help make our food system healthier, more sustainable and ethical. In a market where consumers are making more informed decisions about the food they buy, I believe that food businesses catering to these needs will be the most successful. I'm Michael Fox, CEO and co-founder of shiitake mushroom company Fable Food. For years, I've been obsessed with our food system. Welcome to my podcast where I talk shiitake with successful chefs, food industry executives and entrepreneurs to learn about what's led to their success in the food industry. In today's episode of Talking Shiitake, I speak with meal kit company Marley Spoon Australia's co-founder and CEO, Rolf Weber. Rolf and I met nearly 15 years ago when we were both in the fashion industry, and I actually interviewed him for my blog back then. We've both moved from fashion into food, and this was a reunion of sorts. It was fascinating to hear from Rolf his journey into food, including the highs and lows of managing Marley Spoon through COVID, where they saw a huge spike in sales for meal kit deliveries, and how his role has changed as he's grown an incredible business from 0 to 220 million in revenue.
Cool. Welcome to the podcast, Rolf. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Good to see you.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a reunion for us. I think I recorded a video with you and Daniel back when you're doing Brands Exclusive. It must be like more than 10 years ago, I think that was.
I think it was 2010, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, wow, 14 years ago. Amazing. Well, it's good to be able to chat again. We were both in fashion. Yeah, talk me through your journey into Marley Spoon. Like, what was it that brought you into the food space and into Marley Spoon originally?
So coincidence and opportunity to be like, I wasn't searching to enter the food space, probably different to your own journey. But when Dan and I launched, sold Brands Exclusive, where the European venture capital fund invested in Brands Exclusive at the time, they were quite happy with the exit for them, and they invested mid-end 2014 into Marley Spoon in Europe. And when the question came up if Marley Spoon would venture into Australia, the connections were made. You know, we know a couple of people, maybe they can help. And the initial idea was that we would support the Marley Spoon Group in finding and setting up a team to actually run a business. And that was my initial failure, that I actually didn't find anybody. So I had to pay the price and do it myself.
So that's the sort of coincidence side of it. Were there elements of moving into food that you found sort of attractive after having done fashion before?
So for me, I also did have some time and I was looking for what would be the next opportunity after my exit from Brands Exclusive, having spent some time skiing with the family and worked with Justice and some others on launching Mad Paws at the time, so which wasn't the main gig. So what I found attractive was the subscription model. I also was looking for a product category that was doing something good for the community, society, if you like. And there's two aspects with Marley Spoon Meal Kit and the Meal Kit model. On one hand, really help customers and consumers to live a better life. And there's two facets. One is the whole family actually contributes to the perceived chore of cooking because we make it so easy with recipes that even, you know, hubby cooks, once a week, and maybe the teenagers chip in. So, you know, the family dynamics change a little bit. And then on the other hand, we contribute through the, you eat healthier just by cooking for yourself versus eating ultra processed food. And then the next one was the other contribution to community society is at scale. We do support a reduction in food waste because within our supply chain and our business model, there's when on a good week, it's just 1%. On a bad week, it's 1.5 to 2% of food waste, which for ultra fresh food, produce, meats, and all these kind of things is very low. And, at scale, you save a lot of carbon emissions by not producing food that doesn't get used. And then the little bit of food waste we have gets 90% of that ends up in the hands of us harvest or in the hands of our team members to be actually really eaten. So there's next to no food waste in our chain. So good contribution to society. Consumers have kind of take something away. There's a real need. I had something with regards to my experiences in retail online operations. I had a lot of experience to bring to the table in terms of fast scaling. With Brands Exclusive, we scaled that reasonably fast, going from 0 to 5,000 boxes a day in under 3 years. And the last one was, there was also something I wanted to learn. So a new category, new business model, pretty audacious idea of, scaling a business in 5 countries at the same time when the hype cycle was already at its peak. So, HelloFresh was 3-4 years earlier. Blue Apron was a couple of years earlier. We kind of came in late with a better solution to the problem choice than others, but still a bit audacious. So quite interesting.
Walk me through in sort of some detail the value proposition for the customer of the meal kit. And I've been a Marley Spoon customer, and we'll often go through periods where we resubscribe and we're a customer. So I know and value it myself. But who is the kind of is the sort of profile customer, target customer, and what does that value proposition look like? Yeah.
The target customer is basically busy professionals that live a full life, but also like to cook a couple of times a week as a minimum. And we make that really easy. There is the tangible benefits of you bring in more variety, you bring in better tasting recipes and all these kind of things. But the real problem that we're solving is that question on Sunday, honey, what are we going to cook or eat next week? Just doesn't happen anymore, and therefore it reduces tension in the household, but does all the wonderful things of bringing in variety and opportunity for different family members to do the chores. And it's 2 people being reasonably busy, generally working both, and then they may kind of move in together and not yet have kids, but also 65% of the customers we serve have children, and that is from very small children, toddlers, where the adults just eat for themselves, and they kind of fix some food for the kids on the side, but they want to at least a couple of times have something decent to eat versus just sharing the mashed potatoes and the pureed carrots. And then there is, of course, families with older children, teenage children, where they all eat together. So it's actually from end 20s, early 30s onwards to all the way to 50s, but with varying degrees. And then we bring in a lot of choice and variety. So when we started, we had 7 different meals that customers could choose from. And just the fact that you could configure your own box was already a very different approach to some of the competitors in the market at the time. And now we're offering in the meal kit side, we have 2 brands, our value brand, Dinnerly, and then we have our premium brand, Marley Spoon, and each of those offers over 100 meals across various categories and choice levels and price points to our customers. And then for just under 2 years, we also have, in addition, our Chef Good brand, which is a ready-to-eat. Again, it's a different value proposition for different needs. So we build out the business across choice and across different consumer needs.
Yeah, gotcha. So the core, so there's a few different problems you're solving, but as you describe it, the core problem is, what Sunday night, what are we going to eat this week? That's kind of the
really
fundamental problem.
Making variety and different food experiences really easy to achieve. Some technicalities based on your past behaviors and the foods that you liked and the meals that you chose and also opted out on, we learn, and therefore we can over time present you as a first choice, a highly curated choice that is very different to Michael than it will be to Rolf. And that then already makes it very easy. But we still see 70% of our customers still editing their box, and all of these are data points for us to just continue on one hand to develop the range of meals that we offer in terms of what are they looking for, what are they not finding. And then on the other hand, obviously improve the profile of that customer to kind of make that pre-selection better for next time. But I also do think that regardless of how good your first selection is, customers will always love fiddling around. And the moment they touch it, they actually make it their choice rather than our choice. And that then drives better retention and other things. So we don't mind customers editing their order, as we call it. We see it as a good thing, but we also want to kind of get it right for those 30-40% that don't edit their orders. So.
And you touched on there some of the amazing data that you collect. I've sort of seen that as a customer. You sort of send an email each week to asking customers to rate the dishes that they've eaten, and I've seen it as a supplier to you guys, the amazing data that you're able to collect. Yeah, can you sort of talk through the types of data you're able to collect and then how you leverage that to improve the customer experience?
There's, of course, sales data where we see what types of meals are selling versus not selling. And then we then look at, okay, how did we promote that meal into the box, or was it not promoted? And then we draw conclusions on what our customers are looking for, what not. Then we have obviously what we call culinary ratings. So customers give a star rating on a meal, and they also have opportunity to tell us why good or why not good. And then the culinary team, and you know them, they're quite diligent in going through kind of meal by meal and feedback by feedback in order to see, okay, what is in there that we can tweak that particular meal with to make it better. And we'll get to that maybe. We created a range of particular bestsellers where we took the feedback of all of our customers on these particular meals into account, and then actually notched them up a bit. Kind of what was the common feedback? It needed a bit more sauce. It would be great to have a bit more crunch with this, and whatever it was. And then we use it to either develop our new next lot of recipes, or when we do repeats, then we improve kind of the meal that we have based on those, or we completely drop it. Kind of, it was a dud and kind of don't do that again. That didn't work. So really quite diligently go into the feedback that's provided on a per meal basis, sales data, distribution, what's different between our value brand Dinnerly, premium brand Marley Spoon, kind of where does price point sit? Maybe we need to drop the price a little bit and then it sells more. So there's quite a lot that we learn and gain from it. Yes.
You guys have access to an amazing amount of data compared with, say, other ways people buy food, whether that's through restaurants or through retailers. And I imagine that's something that you can leverage to then sort of identify. You've been leveraging to then identify other market opportunities and other customer segments, and that's sort of, imagine what's led into your chef food range. And
when we onboarded Fable, we saw that the range of vegan/vegetarian food, and particular vegan food, it wasn't big enough to actually allow a customer that wants to eat 100% vegan to also have choice. We had a couple of meals, but if you wanted to have 3 or 4, then as a vegan customer, you had zero choice. It was quite socialistic. This is what you're going to eat this week and nothing else. So, that was a point where we onboarded quite specifically and targeted a range of vegan proteins in order to allow the culinary team to develop a bigger range, so that we more consistently now can have 8 or 10 vegan specific meals in our range every week. And that then boosted the vegan/vegetarian range to over 20. And then we could see that attachment rates were increasing, but not only for that particular customer, but also for customers that wanted to eat more flexitarian and needed 1 or 2. And then there was a bigger range of options to actually pick from. So more opportunity to find what, that particular customer would like in that given week. So these are the things that we pick up on. Also, other data points, we ask for, why are you skipping this week? Why are you continuing your subscription, but you skipped this week? Is it because the choice wasn't there, or is it because you're going on holidays, right? And sometimes we go, well, I couldn't find what I was looking for, and here's a few things, and that gives us a lot of opportunity to then adapt the range to fulfill those needs that we're currently not meeting.
I wanted to take you back to March 2020. And COVID.
Really? Really?
Yeah. For us at Fable, we just launched 4 months earlier, and Marley Spoon was our first scaled customer. So yeah, thank you again for supporting us around the time of our launch. And yeah, when March 2020 hit, we saw obviously all of our restaurant customers, with restaurants closing, the sort of food sales in restaurants dropped pretty dramatically, and their orders to us dropped dramatically. But you guys were in a very different position. Obviously, people still need to eat, so they switched to retail stores, and retail stores were sort of running out of stock. But yeah, the real big boom was for sort of retail food being delivered, and you guys obviously had a great offer for that. Walk us through that sort of those first few weeks and months, and what COVID did, how that was for you guys.
Internally, we needed to scale up really quickly. And if you would have asked me kind of on February 20, Rolf, how long do you think would it take you to scale the business by 50%? Would have said, oh, 2 months, 3 months, maybe, and we did it in kind of 2 weeks. So we had to scale internally very quickly. And luckily, we already had excess capacity. So it's not that kind of we didn't have space in the facilities, but, opportunity to do 2 shifts, worst case 3 shifts. So kind of we already kind of figured how do we grow, and if growth hits, how do we do that? And we were prepared. We also had some kind of onboarding tools for new team members, which were all mobile phone based. So a lot of online stuff was ready to be deployed. Marley Spoon being a subsidiary of a global business, pretty much everything was digital, Zoom, kind of we were, all of this was not a big problem for us anyway. So internally, we needed to hire quickly in order to meet the pick and pack demand. But you also had the rearranging of supply chains in the background where, a lot of food that used to go into hospitality suddenly kind of needed to be redirected into the other channels, retail, online retail. And that took some time. There's differences in how things are packed. There is different suppliers that suddenly kind of, 90% focused on hospitality. So they had all the stock for some of the wholesalers, but the wholesalers were serving us in the supermarket. So all of this rearranging was happening, and then getting drivers for last mile deliveries on the other end with our last mile partner was also a bit of a channel. So it was a challenge. It was reasonably frantic, especially the first 4 weeks when everybody was rearranging their own worlds. But we kind of got it done, and some luck, some planning, some hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, kind of to make it happen with a team that was also really willing to go that extra mile. Because for us, the hardship for everybody dealing with a pandemic at the time, but for us it was also an opportunity to enter into a growth phase, which to do that on our own with marketing spend would have been very expensive to do in that short period of time. So I mentioned it somewhere else, but kind of you gotta use and harness the opportunity when it's knocking on your door, right? So
how much did the business grow through that COVID period, and then what did you see post COVID when everything sort of went back to normal?
We grew 40-50% just within a few weeks, and then kind of a bit more after that. And since then, overall meal kit has come down a bit, but our ready to eat business has grown. So overall, we're kind of more or less gone sideways. But it had to do with, we also changed how we market. We put more emphasis on high quality customers versus a lot of them. So with our business model, we acquire a lot of customers, and then they find out that either subscription or cooking 3 times a week isn't for them. And so we have this churn retention wave kind of rolling through, and we acquired all these customers that needed us for the first few weeks. But then when the fisty fights in the supermarket aisles kind of subsided, and they were actually the only opportunity to get out of the house, then people actually kind of stopped ordering from us, and they went back into retail again. The stocks were shelved, toilet paper back. So there's a bit of a wave flowing through. But overall, how I see it is that the initial growth basically regressed back to the mean growth, and that's where we are now. So we are at the kind of growth rate where the business probably would have been, and maybe a bit further than without the pandemic. It just kind of regressed to where we were. And we also, in the meantime, did some other changes in terms of focusing the business more on being a profitable business rather than a growth business.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so the customer pretty much went went back to normal, but a few more people had been introduced to meal kits, so it was maybe a little bit of a small step jump, but then came back to normal. Yeah.
But the ongoing shift offline to online basically regressed back to normal. And we see that continuing to happen, where when you have a healthy investment in growth, healthy investment in your cohorts and retention of their cohorts, and you don't have these very abrupt swings up and down. So we had this massive swing up, and then that wave kind of rolled through. Then we changed our marketing spend as well, kind of significantly reduced it with a view to become a more profitable business. So, all of these factors considered, kind of the growth journey is now where it needs to be. And I see it quite optimistically going forward that that offline to online shift in grocery is still continuing to happen. So the average share in online groceries maybe 8-9% now. Holds a bit less, Woolies a bit more, but on average, kind of, that's where it sits. And that's probably where it would have set Australia, yeah. And that's where it probably would have set from 2020 to 2024 with a normal kind of growth curve as well. Yeah.
Are there other markets, or you guys operate in Germany, in the United States? Do you know roughly what the online grocery share is in other markets? Is Australia sort of at par or a bit behind?
No, it's reasonably similar. So it's maybe 1%. So I think Germany, for all its kind of advantages and disadvantages, is a bit slower in adoption on online grocery. US is thereabouts the same, yeah, maybe slightly ahead. Yeah.
And you touched on this before, but yeah, Marley Spoon launched a little bit after HelloFresh and Blue Apron, and yeah, kind of at the peak of the meal kit wave. And yeah, we'll talk about the plant-based space too, but the plant-based space has gone through a similar sort of boom and then sort of bust consolidation period. How has that played out how have you seen that of the meal kit space evolve in the 10 years that you've been in it? And yeah, how do you see that going forward?
So, the industry in itself is 12 years old, 13 years. I think it launched in Sweden first, and HelloFresh, fast adopter, fast global rollout. Marley Spoon 3 years later. Globally, Marley Spoon is 10 years old. Marley Spoon Australia, 9 years. So it's 13, 14 years in terms of a very specific industry. And at the end of the day, still somewhat niche in terms of a grocery offer. But on the other hand, we also have kind of grown the business quite nicely over this period. And I see that continuing. So what happened since is it started off with some of our competitors, no choice. We started with a little bit of choice. Choice has now expanded across the meals, quite significantly. In addition, pretty much all players added other eating occasions to the mix. So you can buy a cook yourself meal on Marley Spoon. You can have ready to heat. You can have quick meals where some ravioli with a sauce, some gnocchi with a sauce. There is dumplings. So really quick assemble meals. We just have a simple, awesome burger set, be it with Wagyu burger or vegan burgers, and you can kind of choose. So there's a range expansion which goes beyond the cook yourself meal. So we can offer the customer different eating solutions because we know, some customers actually don't want to cook at all, or, they just want quick assemble for some lunches, and maybe they cook once a week on a Friday, versus others actually cook 6 times a week for the whole family. And we, for example, with Dinnerly, we see a higher share of cook yourself meals per week than we see that on Marley Spoon, and that has to do with the average household income on our value brand is a bit lower. They probably don't go out as often. Maybe work doesn't chip in, with dinners externally through events and all these kind of things. So they cook more often at home. So the Marley Spoon across our brands has evolved the offer to be more broad than 3 times a week you have to cook for yourself. And we see a big opportunity in making that substantially easier in terms of the buying process going forward. And there's a lot of room to run. So how I see that is that with our brands, we just have this convenience layer around. We know what you like. We know what you don't like, which is also quite important. We can customize the offer, the first choice for your weekly shop. You just, add it a little bit and you're done within 2 minutes, and your weekly shopping is done for kind of 80-90% of your food spent. And, that's a huge opportunity versus go to the supermarket, have had the fight with the hubby first on what he wants to eat. He never tells you what he wants, but, dare you're not doing something he likes, or vice versa. And then you go to, the dreaded walk and you have the same things, the the mince, the salad, the tomato, the milk, the bread, and then you walk out and kind of feeling deflated because the variety next week is the same as last week. So I think that's where we can play a big role in making lives easier, but on a broader scale than just the 3 times dinner a week.
Yeah, I think you guys in Australia are on a sort of somewhere around the 100 to 200 million revenue mark. Is that sort of ballpark?
We report on the Australian numbers, so we're roughly in the 220 mark revenue. So yeah.
Yeah. What sort of time frame? What do you see that you need to do to take that to $1 billion?
Hey, we're a listed business, so I can't. I can't give guidance. No, but I mean, we have published that, and I personally see it for Australia. I know it's really ambitious, but the grocery space is under 35 billion there or thereabouts. Depends on what you consider as grocery and whatnot. But these are the roughly reported numbers, 135. So in my view, like we should be able to take 1% of that. That will be my ambition over a period of time. So don't pin me down on the time, because it goes in swings and roundabouts. But like that's my ambition, to kind of create a food group that across different brands and different segments, with a ready-to-eat segment with Chef Good on one hand, but also with our value brand and premium brand, can achieve that kind of group revenue in Australia.
Yeah. Knowing you, Rolf, I can't imagine you'd be wanting to sit on a 220 million revenue a year business, and that, more than $1 billion is what you'd like to do. But I understand you're listed. You can't give them timelines.
It's one of those where there is a big ambition, and it needs a lot of work and a lot of things that we're currently not doing and not doing well. But on the other hand, I tend to forget that we also built a $220 million business that didn't exist. And we have 600 team members, with various degrees of employment that are coming to work every week. So, it's also not bad what we've built in that period of time.
No, it's definitely better than not bad. That's an incredible business that you've built. And you've got a really awesome team. I really enjoy working with them all. Yeah. We kind of touched on before, the plant-based space has kind of gone through a sort of boom and bust and consolidation at the moment. And similar happened in the meal kit space. A lot of sort of froth in the space 8 or 10 years ago, and now being viewed maybe a little bit more sensibly, maybe even a bit overly negative, like it has been in the plant-based space. How have you seen sort of investor sentiment change over time through that sort of boom and bust consolidation sort of journey?
The share price of the Marley Spoon Group kind of went through the roof through the COVID period. I mean, we hit $3.50, which was probably somewhat exaggerated. I think it was a company value at peak in around the 700-800 million, maybe exaggerated at the time. But now, the global group doing somewhat 550 million Australian dollars revenue is valued at maybe 100 million or less. So that's kind of, as you say, it's extreme either way, and that's fine. And overall, the meal kit industry, has had challenges in moving to profitability. And we've seen that around the world, that any listed meal kit business is currently not really valued very well. Even the biggest, very profitable player has had a 40-50% kind of share price drop after the COVID peaks kind of came down already significantly. So there's a lot of irrationality in the short term. But when I look at it, so the Australian business is reasonably profitable and is coming back to growth. We have a lot of growth opportunities out there. The overall fundamentals of the space in terms of offline to online shift, convenience, customers looking for solutions to live a healthier life, customers looking for solutions to, help them, especially with our chef good business, their weight loss or weight goals. So we have that all within our group, and we don't need to actually build it. It's already there in order to capitalize on these general trends. And I forgot the trend to convenience, personalization, customization. We can customize each meal now on a per customer basis without adding complexity in our pick and pack operation. So if you want your stir fry with pork, then I can ship it. If you want it with fable mushroom, then we can do that, and we can customize individual meals. So it's all ready to capitalize on those underlying trends that are long-term trends, have been long-term trends, and will continue to be long-term trends. So I'm very, very confident that we return to growth. I just want to kind of get investors to think about our business differently. We are a meal solutions business versus a meal kit business, because the meal kit part is kind of completely forgetting all the work we've done in adding to the range to address the different eating occasions that we're now serving, as well as the 3 times dinner per night, which was somewhat restrictive in terms of the overall market size. So there's plenty to come.
Right, because now you're doing the pre-prepared meals. You even have sort of a retail range. People can add retail products into the basket, all those kinds of things.
So what that means for us, and maybe that's kind of, maybe you can think about it, but it's trying to differentiate between what is driving hype, what is driving pessimism, and what of this is actually kind of short-term investors gaming their short-term profitability of a fund versus underlying market dynamics. I don't know if it was Buffett or somebody, short-term versus long-term, and don't over-interpret the short-term emotions of a market versus the long-term kind of valuing of the market of what actually is happening. And then the challenge comes kind of managing the time in between when the fundamentals kick back in.
Yeah, I think that's very similar to the plant-based space. I think short term was stupidly over exuberant for a few years there, particularly sort of 2019, 2021.
Which now kind of some players are experiencing big problems because, the investors that came in at these valuations when the hype didn't eventuate.
How have you personally found the experience having done, and I'm interested in this because I did that shift too, but you spent, was it 3-4 years with Brands Exclusive before you had your exit?
Yeah, in total 5. Yes.
Total 5 years, yeah. So you spent 5 years in the fashion space, and I know before that you'd done retail and consulting and different things, but yeah, 5 years in the fashion space versus 10 years in the food space. What things have you seen that are similar and different about those 2 different categories? What sort of learnings have you taken from fashion into food?
So I think personally I'm a bit more passionate about the business I'm in now than Brands Exclusive at the time. So we saw an opportunity to also kind of hop on the shopping club hype there. It wasn't well done in Australia at the time. We saw an opportunity, we got at it, but it wasn't necessarily the one where I thought, well, this is me done for quite some time. And with Marley Spoon, kind of my personal journey was kind of, prove myself that I can do 2 startups. One, who knows, but doing the second one and bringing it to even, now quadruple the revenue. So there's a bit of, I guess I know what I'm doing in terms of scaling businesses. But the other part is my roles fundamentally changed versus the 4 years in Marley Spoon. They were, other than the first maybe half year, kind of getting it off the ground, were very similar versus here, kind of had the first couple of years being in that kind of startup kind of setup. Now we're probably more in the scaling. We had our first merger and acquisition with the Chef Good brand. We now have a fully fledged team, so I can concentrate on and spend my time on different topics than kind of running the day to day versus with Brand Exclusive. Probably didn't make that change just yet. So the Brands Exclusive business at year 3 was fundamentally the same, at year 5, and versus year 3 to year 5 is different, and year 9 here in Australia is very different to just even a year or 2 years ago. So plenty of change in terms of what I do and how I think about it versus Brands Exclusive. In terms of the similarities are always about team, bringing in the right team members at the right time with the right motivations and the right incentives to do good work and building the frameworks around that. So, these are the same in its category. Like, it doesn't really matter. I didn't know fashion, so we needed to kind of get fashion experts in. I didn't know food, so we needed to bring in food experts. And when you start off and you're 3, 5 team members at the very early stages, you have a lot of generalists, and then you move into specialists, and kind of you go up the specialist chain in terms of the experts you hire. But you still need to understand, look at, well, just bringing somebody in from, I don't know, I make this up now, from Woolies or Coles, or who brings in a lot of food retail experience, like that's not necessarily going to work, because they're coming from a different culture, different financial backing, different ways of running teams and businesses. So kind of building a team that is the right team for the right step in the journey that the business is on is one of the parallels that are true for both. In terms of personal gratification, I find the food space better because the feedback we get is, and I mentioned it before, but you have a 70-year-old male sending us a letter that for the first time, wife fell ill and he could actually cook and look after her, versus the 50 years before it was the other way around. I kid you not, we had a family sending us a note that one of their children was in a wheelchair, the other one had a mental disability, and they cooked together. One did the physical work, the other one did the mental work. So these are real examples of the impact that we can have on family life. And they're, of course, a little bit extreme, but it does show that we do make a difference through, on one hand, the service that we provide, and then on the other hand, the quality of the food that we deliver. And honestly, with the skinny jeans or a lipstick, I didn't get that gratification before. So it's way more rewarding in terms of the category we're in than the fashion space was. And some people take a lot out of the fashion space, and gratification is just not, for me, the same level. So
yeah, no, I've found very similar things. Yeah, and agree with all of those things that you've said, plus all the sustainability pieces that you mentioned earlier. There's so much, people have to eat, and there's so much opportunity to sort of optimize supply chains and minimize food waste and packaging and all those kinds of things to help on the sustainability side. Whereas the whole fashion industry.
Yeah, when you get to a bit of scale, then you start, 1% food waste on 220 mil of retail value already starts making a difference versus 10% waste. So there's a few million already saved, and that, translated into be it dumped, or the amount of energy and carbon and soil degradation that goes into producing stuff that ultimately doesn't get used. And we have a long way to go, be it in around what is called, I don't know, ugly or not meeting specifications. We have a long way to go on better packaging, and there's a ton of things that we can do and will do over a period. But on the other hand, I also need to get the balance right, not to rush. Whenever you do all these things, it has an impact on the sell price, and the higher we need to price it because we go harder on the sustainability aspects too early, the less people are able to afford it, which then means that we're not scaling the food waste impact in the other areas. So we're trying to thread the needle here on really having impact on some of the key factors, outsized impact, and then kind of with scale get the margin so we can do all the other things as we move along.
Yeah. No, well, in the periods where we're ordering from Marley Spoon, my compost bin is unhappy because and the worms are unhappy because there's less food being thrown out from the fridge
Where's
into
that
them.
broccoli
So
head?
yeah, exactly. So no, it's definitely see firsthand the food waste benefits of just getting exactly the right amount of each item delivered for the meal, and not having that excess things that we bought at the supermarket. And then it's a good value, part of the value proposition, good money saving as well as for the environment. So no, that's great.
On average, $2,000 a year in food waste per household, I think. So when you are two persons, 3 meals on average over a year, it's $3,000. And that household maybe only saves 1,000, but like that's the thing, and that's the value proposition, which is really hard to sell. You save a ton of money, but because it kind of trickles out of your wallet every week by these $20 only, it's hard to measure and put a value on that. But they only see that, oh, I didn't waste the tomato, but they didn't, oh, I just saved $20 this week. So the actual cost of buying Marley Spoon or Dinnerly is not kind of 70 or 80 bucks a week. It's actually only 60. So that part of the equation, I'd like to kind of have a 15-second spot that really explains that bit. But
that's a tricky communication challenge, yeah, because it definitely, I mean, that is a real thing,
tricky.
yeah.
It is real. It is a real saving. Our long-term customers are well aware, because when they switch off, it kind of happens again. It's just it's a lived experience.
Awesome. Well, great chatting to you, Rolf. Yeah, really, really appreciate it. Good to connect again, and maybe who knows, in 14 years' time, we might be in completely different worlds again. Hopefully not. I think we're both very happy in food now, so hopefully we chat again. Next time we chat, we're both still doing the same thing. Yeah, awesome to see what you've built. Yeah, congratulations again on 220 million revenue in Australia. That's fantastic, and off the back of your Brands exclusive success too. That's two incredible businesses. So awesome speaking with you, Rolf. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.